So Sam is a craftsperson by heart and an environmental educator by trade. He was working part-time allows him for lots of home-based pursuits, converting a shipping container into a shed, building a greenhouse from recycled materials, and setting up the veggie garden. Now, he is also joined today by Dani, his partner, who is his partner in crime in putting this all together. If we can please welcome Sam to the stage. We'll just take it away.
So we bought our land in 2015. We spent 2016 designing, getting approvals from council, and we own a built in 2017. So we didn't have a builder, but we hired a building works supervisor who was Lance Carl from House of Bales, and he signed off on all the key stages. Okay, the house is located in Aldinga Arts Eco Village, which is 45 minutes south of here. People own individual lots there, but can co-own and manage common land. There's a wastewater treatment plant, orchards, a 16-hectare parcel of land we call the farm, which is to the left of the picture. Our block is 450 square metres, surrounded by at least another 500 square metres of common land. We prioritised as big a garden as we could fit on the odd-shaped block, and we used the house to shield the garden from the setting summer sun and the cold westerly winds. This picture shows the completed timber framing for the house. So the straw bales are infilled between the timbers after the roof goes on, which is quite nice during a hot summer. And the darker soil to the right of the house is all the topsoil that we scraped from the build site, plus 9 tonnes of compost that we mixed in, so it was ready for spreading once the house was complete. So we engaged Bowden and Andrew for the design, and to sum up a 3-page document, the brief was for a passive house with a small footprint. The thick walls with cross-hatching are straw bale walls, so you can see the mudroom and the bathroom walls are timber framed to increase internal space. We really didn't want a concrete slab for obvious environmental reasons, but a highly reactive clay soil, horror stories about termites in the eco-village, and being first-time builders meant we listened to advice from architects, engineers and trades to just bite the bullet and pour a concrete slab. So we tried to compensate by making the building small by modern standards and by making the slab dark to capture thermal energy in winter for passive heating. We also chose to just get it helicoptered during the pour rather than cut and polish later, which saved a lot of resources and money, and we threw oxides onto the surface to make it a bit warmer. So these are our walls being delivered. Straw is a byproduct material, in this case it's barley straw. There's minimal processing and transport. This crop was grown near Roseworthy. They're thermally amazing, so walls legally have to be R2.8 minimum, and straw bales are more than R10. So there are 250 bales here, and they cost $8 each, so $2,000 including delivery. So this is the render being applied by a spray hose just before the pump broke down, and the rest of the house got finished by hand. So the external render is sand, lime, and a dash of cement. As the lime cures, it basically reverts to limestone, and it's extremely durable. The cement is basically just for waterproofing, so I think it's only about 5%. The internal render is white sandpit sand, local clay, and a white potter's clay to make it as light in colour as possible. It's much more delicate, but it's easily repaired, and it allows the walls to breathe, which regulates humidity inside the walls, but also inside the house. The internal walls and the ceiling are just gyprock that's been painted with a natural clay paint. I'd strongly recommend this for any house. It only required 2 coats. It was water cleanup, and it's non-toxic, so it's not just low VOC, but no VOC, absolutely no smell at all. We used cob in some internal walls for increased thermal mass, which is just a thicker mixture of sand, clay, and a handful of straw to help bind it together. We foot stomped this to mix it and then packed it against ply or brace board, which we then covered in gyprock, so it just looks like a normal wall. We tried to use recycled materials where we could, like these 100-year-old doors from North Adelaide, around here. It always took more time and effort to use a recycled item, but They were just so beautiful, it was worth it. We got these Moonta Bay jetty beams so we could hang fans from them and attach LED uplights to the tops, and that meant we didn't need to cut holes in the gyprock ceiling, and that would create weak spots for thermal leakage. So the sealant for the slab is just a linseed-based product, linseed oil. So it's also non-toxic, easy to apply. You just spread it on and then buff it off after about 15 minutes. We did one coat before baling and rendering to protect the slab so it didn't stain, and then one more before internal fit out. So this is our kitchen. We gave ourselves a rule for material selection internally so that if at all possible, things should be made out of natural materials. They should be recycled, recyclable at the end of their lives, or compostable. So we really tried to avoid plastic where we could. Our plumbing is exposed copper, which originally we decided to do to try and keep water out of the Strawbale walls, but we soon fell in love with the aesthetic, and we were lucky enough to find an amazing plumber who still works with copper all the time. We use garden fittings wherever possible because they're really durable, they're cheap, they're easy to fix. This tap was just a short length of scrap from the scrap bin, and we also commissioned the plumber to make us a shower head and tail rails. I think he's a bit of a designer at heart. Speaking of labour, we used excellent trades that were recommended to us by our neighbour carpenter and other villagers. I laboured as much as possible given my low to medium level of skill, and as you can see here, I'm just calling out the levels while the carpenters actually do the tricky stuff of lifting the beam and fixing it in place. The area where we did most was straw baling, and we had Scott from House of Bales come out and run a 2-day baling school for us and friends. He showed us all the straw bale building elements, and then we spent another 4 days finishing the rest of the house. It was a lot of fun, extremely productive. So food and drinks were a big component of the build. We got the mums in to cater. We had multiple coffee and tea breaks, and we stopped every day at 4 p.m. for beer o'clock without fail. We've only been moved in since January, but so far the house is performing very well. You can see the sun doesn't penetrate the house at all during summer because of the 600mm eaves. So as long as we get a coolish night every now and again, we can keep the house at a comfortable 22 to 26. This winter, on the other hand, it's been amazingly warm inside. This photo was taken near the solstice, and you can see the sun penetrates nearly 3 metres into the room. We also put thick woolen curtains up that are recycled blankets. The coldest it's been is around 16 when we left for a few days and a cold snap came in. Glass is a terrible insulator even if it's double glazed. Another feature I hope will keep the house cooler is these zip-track blinds. They make the eastern veranda another room, and they should also block the rising summer sun, hopefully keep the mosquitoes out. So this is the house as it is now. A recent addition of a greenhouse to the right of the photo. I managed to build that myself with the skills that I gained during the build, and just using recycled bits and pieces and gifts from friends. Finally, here's the budget, which I know very little about, so if you've got any questions, then please ask Dani. Thank you.